Well, good afternoon, First Baptist Church. Welcome to the Monday blog. We're going through the book of Jude, and today we're going to do Jude 6 and 7. And this is some tough text. And I want us to understand that we shouldn't get caught up in some of the meanings of this text because there could be difficult meanings and different things that happen. And I'm going to explain it the best I can. But I really want us to understand what is important, and that's knowing Jesus. And not just knowing who he is, but knowing him on a personal level. So let me share my screen here as we start to talk. We see this text in Jude 6 and 7. It says, and the angels who did not stay within their own position of authority, but left their proper dwelling, right? And so they did something wrong because God has kept them in eternal chains under gloomy darkness until the day of judgment and great day, right? And so as we start to look at this text, what does this exactly mean? Well, it doesn't tell us much. And so we have to assume that probably the readers that Jude was writing to had a basic understanding of what this meant. And so as we start to look at the text, we see words just as, and we see this word likewise, and then we see this sexual immorality. So we must understand and associate this with something that is sexually immoral. So where in the Bible do we see something that could be angels that is sexually immoral? Well, the best place to go would be Genesis 6, 1 through 4. And as we start to read this text, we see when man began to multiply in the face of the land and daughters were born to them, the sons of God. Now, this text could mean different things. It could mean angels. It could mean the sons of Seth. It could mean that the daughters of men were the daughters of Canaan. But I want us to really look at this text a little bit closer, okay? Then the Lord said, my spirit shall abide in man forever, for he is flesh. His days shall be 120 years. That answers some other questions that we can come back to later on in this series or in another series. But then we see this word, the Nephilim, right? The Nephilim were on the earth. And what were the Nephilim? They were the sons of God, had sex with the daughters of man, and they bore children to them. So there's different thoughts, right? They think that the sons of God could be Seth, right? His descendants, and the daughters of men could be Canaan. His descendants, and the two meshing together were unequally yoked, right? And I would say I would like that if Jude 6 and 7 wasn't there. But I don't think we can separate the two. So we have to move on, right? Others may say that the angels came down and had sex with women, and that bond made these mighty men or these men of renown, these almost like deity type people. The problem with that, and some people go to the book of Enoch to say it, but I never want to go to a book that's outside the Bible to describe what's going on in the Bible, to actually exposit it. And I go to Matthew 22:30, where it says, for in the resurrection that they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are like angels. Right? If and we can't separate marriage from sex. The Bible doesn't give us that opportunity, right? And so we're not going to have sex but not be married in heaven. That's not how God's going to work this. We aren't going to have this desire for sex, and that's actually going to be a good thing. It's going to cause a lot less stress in our life. But as we start to look at this, the angels don't do that, at least not in their form. So I would go through the route that the demons possessed the mighty men, the leaders of different kingdoms, the leaders in that place of the time, these men of renown, and they did some evil things and had sex with the daughters of men. And what was the purpose of that? Well, I always go back to Jesus. They really wanted to corrupt the seed, this line of Abraham through David that won't be for till later, but this line, this seed, so that the Messiah won't be born. Genesis 3:15 is very clear that the Messiah is going to crush Satan's head, and that's the guy that they really like. That's their man, right? And so that's not what they want to happen. Now, is that extra biblical? A little bit, yes, but we're trying to use common sense and use the Bible to find out what's going on. But in all of this, here's what I really want us to understand. That just because we know who God is, and the angels know who God is, they know who Jesus is. Just because we know who he is doesn't mean we know him on a personal level. And if we don't know Jesus on a personal level, the punishment, just like all these other people, is eternal. I don't care if you're in the church. I don't care if you're outside the church. I don't care where you're at. If you don't know Jesus on a personal level, the only punishment that is sufficient is eternal fire. And that's what Jude is trying to tell us. He's telling us to know God, to know who he is, to know Jesus on a personal level. And when we know him in that way, we have this passion and desire for him, then we don't get eternal fire, we get eternal life. So thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next week. Have a good day.